Salud! So why have the Romanian diaspora voted in huge numbers for a pro-Russian, anti-EU, anti-NATO candidate, Călin Georgescu, in the first round of the Romanian presidential elections? Yesterday I had a video about his shock victory, I guess we can say. There's going to be a second round. He's going to be in a runoff against Elena Lascon, who is a pro-EU candidate. Romanian is part of the European Union since 2007. It is a member of NATO. It borders Ukraine. Obviously, we have the Russo-Ukrainian war. It is and has been a staunch ally of Ukraine. And Georgescu had run on a campaign of not providing any more military aid to Ukraine, maybe reminiscent of the campaigns run in Slovakia by Fico and in Hungary by Viktor Orban. So looking through the voting and where Georgescu did well and where Lascon did well and the other candidates, whether there was a second significant candidate who was also more Russia-friendly. That was George Simeon of the Our Party, and he finished in 4th place. And the left-wing candidate narrowly missed out in making the second round, finishing just 0.02 percentage points behind Lascon Ciolaru. So looking at where there were significant numbers of votes for Georgescu, I was absolutely gobsmacked to see that he did best, not actually in Romania, in any particular part of the country, but in fact with the diaspora. Now, Romania has a significant number of people living abroad who are citizens who can vote in the elections. And also parsing through the data by country, the majority of those Romanians living abroad live in Western Europe. There's also a pretty big Romanian diaspora in Moldova. Many Moldovans are entitled to Romanian citizenship by descent. It's estimated about 35% of Moldovans are in fact Romanian citizens, and the population is somewhere around just a little bit over 2.5 million people in Moldova. So you could extrapolate that to say there's probably a little bit under 1 million Romanian citizens living in Moldova, more or less between 800,000 and 1 million. Those didn't vote in huge numbers, but in contrast to the Romanians living in, say, the United Kingdom, in Ireland, in Germany, in France, in Italy, in Austria, in Spain, in the Scandinavian countries, Romanians in Moldova basically didn't vote hardly at all for Georgescu. He got an extremely low number of votes. It was under 5%. However, in countries like, for example, Germany, he actually got over 50%. And there are a significant number of Romanians living in Germany. It's a big country that hosts a lot of Romanian citizens. Likewise, almost the same kind of percentages in the United Kingdom and in Ireland. Just a little bit under 50% of votes. So remember, he was getting 23% overall, but he didn't quite get 50% of the diaspora vote, but he seems to have gotten pretty close to 50% overall in Western Europe. So how can a more or less anti-EU, anti-NATO, pro-Russia candidate do so well with the Romanians living in the European Union, living in NATO countries for the most part, and obviously in countries that are further away from Russia than in Romania itself? And he didn't do well at all in Moldova, which is a country which is, to a certain extent, at risk of an invasion by Russia. It is a lot closer to Ukraine. It obviously has a border with Ukraine. So this is something of a mystery. Is it just successful campaigning? He is known as the TikTok candidate because apparently he was running a lot of videos on TikTok, which is ostensibly a Chinese-owned platform, social media platform that is particularly young, popular with a younger demographic. However, it seems that there was targeting certain big Western European countries, he has done particularly, and surprisingly well, considering where they are based. And if you contrast with the recent Moldovan presidential elections, where Maia Sandu, who won the election, who is pro-EU, pro-Moldova joining the European Union in the future and seen as in opposition to Russia, she did extremely well with the diaspora. It was actually almost the reason she won in the end. She won by about 10 percentage points, and the diaspora, Moldovan diaspora living abroad is about 15% that votes. So, and she got the vast majority of those votes from just about everywhere, including the Moldovans living in Western Europe. And a huge number of those Moldovans living in West Europe are actually also Romanian citizens who could have voted in this election as well. So, bit of a mystery. Was it just successful targeting on social media? In certain Western European countries, the diaspora is somewhere around 10% of the electorate in the Romanian election. It was probably close to being the difference of why he's in the into the second round, why he finished top in the first round. If you look at the fact that he won by a few percentage points, and it was very close between the second and third candidates. So it could have been a crucial difference. And it is interesting to see that it is a little bit counterintuitive why so many Romanians who live in Western Europe will be voting for a candidate who is openly very pro-Putin and very Eurosceptic and very NATO-skeptic in his comments that he has made prior to running in the election. He was also in the same party as the candidate who finished fourth, George Simenon. That is the Our Party, that is also considered particularly favorable to Moscow and very Eurosceptic. And he left that party and ran as an independent. There's a lot of speculation around why he left. He may have been considered too extreme or too openly pro-Russian to stay in that party, but then he has now basically surprised everybody in Romania. The polls were showing that the left-wing candidate, Ciolaru, and the Our candidates, also Russia-friendly, George Simenon, were expected to finish first and second, but in fact they have finished third and fourth. The second round of the election is going to be on the 8th of December, and it will be between, obviously, Georgescu and Elena Lascan. Logically, looking at the first round of voting, seeing who is pro-Moscow and who is pro-EU, it would seem that it's going to be a 60-40 split in favor of candidates that are pro-EU. However, since Georgescu came from absolutely nowhere, it seems, to have won the first round, it is not really that safe an assumption to make that that's the way it's going to split in the second round. And it will be fascinating to see, especially in light of how the diaspora voted in the first round, whether that will now be repeated in the second round, whether Romanians living in Moldova who did not vote for Georgescu are now going to be more motivated to go and vote in the second round. That will all be revealed on the 8th of December. And from the perspective of Ukraine, obviously my channel focuses on geopolitics with respect to Ukraine, it is particularly disconcerting that Romania may have such a Moscow-friendly president in just a few weeks. That is not a certainty, but we will see what happens in round two. So, I'll end today's video there. La rivedere.